guys, this is Crime Scene Analysis. I am Angie.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Caroline.
And we are here to bring you all the intel and scoop on episode 206, Head Case.
Ooh, yeah.
It was written by Wyatt Kane and directed by Lisa Robinson. My new, just under Nathaniel Bloom shrine to people I now adore on the crew. I love you both to the moon. I hope you know that. Okay, so let's rock it.
Yeah.
I started off at the 45-second mark because, quite frankly, I am not okay with Team Jess and Martin co-parent meetings. No, thank you. Nope. It's been 20 years. Nope.
Yeah, this was like principal meeting. Sit down, son.
And just the fact that, again, we kind of left off the last episode of she's playing right into his hands and he is just in his element. This is the best day of his life and I'm just over it. I'm also over, oh, go ahead.
No, I just made a
blast.
A gross noise.
Truth, understandable.
Yep.
I am also not okay with this magic solution of if we tell Ainsley as a family, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm if you tell someone they murdered someone, it doesn't matter how many people you love are in the room. That doesn't fix your response to it.
This is not a group intervention for substance abuse.
That doesn't fix PTSD.
My mom told me, so I'm fine now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that does not help PTSD.
And my brother and my serial killer father, of all people.
Yep.
Let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya together.
Oh my goodness.
I also have an issue with, I am willing to suspend my disbelief in terms of the things Mr. David has or has not heard. But we know from multiple previous episodes, these are not soundproof doors. Now, obviously, you need to raise your voice a little bit, but David is literally sitting in a chair right outside this door or standing right outside this door. And Malcolm is right in front of the window doing the my sister murdered someone in cold blood. And I'm at some point, Mr. David has to have put two and two together.
He has his AirPods in and he's listening to Ragtime. Just and we just can't see it.
Ragtime.
I can't think of any other.
It's perfect. Never change it.
Yeah.
Which the next thing leads me to the explanation of the Caro's question. What is a Monday morning accomplice?
Oh my God. All right. So I searched the whole internet, the pillars of the internet for this thing. And I felt like a bad word for not being able to figure out what it was. So what is it?
Okay. So this is a reference to the phrase Monday morning quarterback. A Monday morning quarterback, statistically, most football games are played on a Sunday.
Yes.
A Monday morning quarterback is the person that is not necessarily sports related, but they're the one that looks back at the game and goes, well, here's all the things Brady did wrong. He should have blah, 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 blah. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. We get it. So it's essentially a hindsight is 2020 reference about on Monday morning, it's really easy for you to spot all the problems. You weren't doing it in the moment, but now you're looking back at your film and you can see all the idiocies you did. So the nobody likes a Monday morning accomplice is a joke about, hindsight. You can tell him all the things you should have done on how to chop up the body the right way, but you weren't there when he was doing the chainsaw, So that's what that reference means. Don't point out the stuff when you weren't there in the moment to make the decision.
Wow, I'm mad now.
I love it. This is why we do this. I love this.
We all have such varied experiences because one of us picked up on it at some point.
I was is this some 80s crime TV show, like another Miami Vice thing that I but that's John Johnson or whatever. Oh my God.
And then I also want to talk about the absolute whiny bonanza of, where was this leniency when I was the one murdering people?
I
over it. over it. You are a bitter Betty, party of one. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Betty.
Martin's loaded with Martin's doling out the guilt.
And the thing is, this wasn't even that much guilt. It was like Poplar whining about something. Like, I
Yeah.
get a big piece of cake. Like, that's what he was mad about. Like, where was that when it was my turn? Like, you murdered 23 people, dude.
Mhm.
On
I have no
purpose. At
sympathy.
least in Ainsley's case, she blacked out and didn't realize she did it. I'm not forgiving it, but it's better than intentionally torturing 23 plus people. Sorry, Martin. This is the no compassion zone. I hate to break that to you.
It is always no compassion zone for me. So
And here's the thing, like, I
I
don't
am
want people
sorry.
like, I don't hate Martin. I don't hate Michael Sheen. I love the character. He's a great foil for Martin, but I am not here to be like, oh, poor serial killer. Give him a hug. No. Killer. Yes,
Sorry,
Carol, I
full
agree.
stop. Should we like blur out my
Yeah, Britt can give you a little witness protection finger. It'll be fine.
honest to God?
Oh my gosh.
No, what I loved about this whole scene was how much foreshadowing it was for the episode.
Mhm.
Like when Malcolm says, I wish I didn't know you were a killer. That foreshadowed exactly what happened in the dream. Bye.
Bye.
At 3:43, we get a nice little shout out to Duke Ellington, who, being the music nerd that I am, he was a jazz composer from kind of the big band era. He composed first, and then he became like a conductor of his own band and played all the clubs. In like the pre-Rat Pack era, the Rat Pack was kind of a similar situation, but the music style had changed out of jazz, and jazz was definitely like in the 30s and 40s more than like the 40s and 50s and 60s. So he very much would have been like, that reference is like some royalty has been in this hotel. Like, it's not some random JT jokes about you're getting a lot of mileage out of that, but it's a big deal. It may be almost 100-year-old reference, but it's still a pretty big deal to be like, that dude used to come to this hotel.
Yeah.
Speaking of hotels, Caro, what do we got, boo?
Oh yeah. So they are talking about this hotel and its reputation, especially how JT says that Danny thinks it's haunted. And I'm sure, or I'm hoping at least, that everyone who has logged on to Netflix in the last week and a half has seen that there is a new documentary out. I think it's called like Vanishing.
Vanishing at the Cecil crime scene, the Vanishing at Cecil Hotel.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, that just premiered, and that is the case of the real life Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, which has a reputation of its own for being haunted, and was the home of a lot of things, a lot of bad things.
Yeah,
Jess and I are gonna
actually. Yeah, do you have those bad things? Because I wrote a bunch of those bad things down.
Yeah, to sort of do a quick hit list. I mean, there was a lot of suicides, a lot of murders. One of our least favorite disgusting narcissist serial killers hooked up there on the 14th floor and used to walk up the stairs after stripping down in an alleyway in his underwear, in his blood-stained underwear, to go back to his room.
One does.
Yes, exactly. When you're God. But it was also known for its architecture when it was first made. It was a beautiful place for the time that it was made. I'm forgetting when.
Are you talking about Art Deco?
Yes.
Is it the same? Okay.
Yeah. It was literally just like this, the Kenmare Hotel, and how Malcolm was talking about it. It was the same thing with the Cecil. Jess, do you want to talk more about the specifics about what happened there?
So there's a ton of, there's like a pretty large handful of things that they mention in this episode that are direct references or playoffs of the real Cecil Hotel. So one of the things that I didn't realize, and when I did some quick research, was that there's actually a murder that happened there that is still not solved. So at the time that this episode is happening, there's a murder that happened that still hasn't been solved. Bowery Ripper. So I was like, oh, hey, that's more than just like a random coincidence that happens to be in there. But yeah, it's an old hotel with a very creepy past, like Caroline outlined. They had multiple periods of that hotel shifting owners and styles and things like that. And so after it was done being just a hotel, it became split up into 2 or 3 different sections over the years, and it became a hotel, it became a short stay place for people to stay for weeks at a time, and then it became a place where, and then there was a portion where people could actually live there. And we see this happening in the Kenmare Hotel with with Greta Swan and her father. They live there. Mm-hmm. So and it was a rundown place even while it was open. I haven't finished the documentary series that Caroline and I mentioned that's on Netflix about the C.S.A. Hotel, but there is footage of people going into the hotel, like bedrooms and bathrooms, during the time that it was an open hotel for people to come to. And it's just like, excuse me, I would have ran out of there at the first sight. Like, so this all came to mind actually, like Caroline said, this all popped into her head about the C.S.A. Hotel, like when they walked into the Kenmare, and like I was doing so many things at once. All of this didn't really pop into my head until later when they end up in the creepy ass elevator with Greta and her father popping in, and I was like, wait a minute, this is the C.S.A. Hotel. So and there's and then the biggest thing, like we said, the Elisa Lam case, a lot of it centers on footage found of her in an elevator. So there's a lot of footage of them in the elevator or in the elevator shaft, and it's really creepy and rickety and just really weird. So I thought that was an interesting similarity as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the serial killer who actually stayed there, did I mention this guy's name?
No, I have it written down though.
I didn't know if you were going to.
I didn't want to be wrong, but because I know there were a few actually, but I only
because there were 2.
Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, who actually Lou Diamond Phillips played in.
I was like, excuse me, really?
And then there was another
1 degree of separation. That's not even 6.
Literally, yeah. And then there was another guy who stayed there, but we don't.
Yeah, there was no name given for that person. I don't think.
No, he has a name. We don't really care. We don't
really care about it. I just put Ramirez down.
Unfortunately.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
For all of our true crime nerds.
Yeah, it was cool.
At the 5:53 mark, I have what I have titled my "I did not see that coming" line of the episode, which is that is my vagina reimagined as a 3-dimensional celebration of form and color. That might be one of my favorite just blindside you lines from this whole show. Like, that was not the answer I was expecting. And I have this amazing screenshot that I'll have to put up on social media of Bright's response versus Danny's response versus JT. Like, it is just 3 completely different responses to this question.
JT was slightly intrigued, but Danny was just like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah. No,
and it's always like, Bright just smiling like an idiot. Like, when it was Adrisa talking about how many times you brought her to orgasm, he's like, yeah. Like, he's always really
same energy.
And I have to say, when they were entering the artist loft, I was sitting there smiling. I was pretty happy because, like, these are my kind of people. I'm not as eccentric as them. My artwork is not my vagina reimagined as whatever. But as someone who really wants their own studio space and really wants to like work with other like local artists and stuff, that just made me happy to see.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, this was.
And I love the callback too, when later, like, they have moved on. Bright and Danny are talking about the case, and JT just goes, "I still have no idea how that's supposed to be a design."
And Danny's face again is like, "Can we just not talk about it anymore?
Right? Can we move on from vaginas, please? My God."
No, I actually loved seeing the studio. It looked very much like the art studio at the college that I went to. Where they had a huge, like, open space art gallery where it was just like paintings everywhere, like just they spread the whole place out. And then of course we meet Wendell, who I loved and who Bright clearly loved as well.
Oh yes,
it was his people for sure.
That was, you could see it on his face too. He was like, I found one of me. And he also talks about that Bowery Ripper who I like had assumed that was just like a fictionalized thing for the purpose of the show, but then I looked it up, and there actually was a Bowery Ripper in New York City who people believed was Jack the Ripper, who came to, yeah.
Okay, I'm
like
disappointed.
during the same time period, or like reincarnated?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, same time period. Yeah,
I'm disappointed in my true crime nerdy self for not having looked up that information, but I'm glad you did.
yeah. So they thought that it was actually him, but then someone went on to describe that they thought it was like a phenomenon calling someone a Jack the Ripper if they were a murderer who gruesomely tore up women.
Well, that's gonna get you. That's gonna get you press. Like newspapers sold and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Back
exactly.
in the day, that was what was going down. So
yeah, the website that I found showed the old newspaper clippings from this time, and it was like Jack the Ripper comes to New York City. Like that would have scared the
and just like modern day media, anything that'll scare the crap out of people but may not necessarily be true is what we will lead with on this 24-hour news cycle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Fun stuff.
Well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
At 8:33, Carol, I had a little callback to last week when we talked about JT being the everyman.
Oh yes, I was thinking of that.
Where he like immediately sticks his head in the elevator and goes, nope, and just backs up and leaves. Meanwhile, Danny and Bride are like, yeah, let's do it. And they just get on the elevator. I
think the line, "This does not inspire confidence," I've used that at least 3 times this week after hearing that. I just loved it.
I feel like I want to use that on like a student's assignment. like how far have you gotten? Ooh, that does not inspire confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
At 8:36, speaking of elevator, we do have Danny and Malcolm together on the elevator, and she asks about Claremont. We get a nice little what do you want to call it, platonic, whatever, bonding moment. Like it's nice to see that they are a little more open, asking about kind of personal things when they're private and not around other people. So she knows that Claremont tends to be a trigger thing for Malcolm. So she's generally like, are you okay? What went down? And I really love how Tom played Bright's response, which is like, I can't tell her. Like, it's not like, oh, it's fine. Like, he told her, well, same as always, but then he has to stop at a certain point because he can't reveal too much. So it was nice that he revealed pretty much as he could to her before stepping across the line that he wasn't going to be able to come back from.
Yeah.
Because he could have just been like, it was fine. But he admitted, like, no, it was an ambush. It was horrible. I hate my life.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bore you with that, so that was kind of a cute moment I enjoyed.
Yeah. That was also a little bit of foreshadowing.
Absolutely. And then this is the first time we hear a callback to a piece of score from episode 105. So it happens way more prominently later in the episode, but there's a little undertone of it in this moment when they're talking and bonding. And on the score, like soundtrack for the score, it's titled what is it? What would Freud say? Because that's it. But I think the fandom kind of knows it more as the drink more tea with friends.
Yep.
This is specifically a moment where in their friendship, during that episode 105, they had already, Danny had already said, like, look, we're not friends yet. We'll get there. Malcolm tells her, you can trust me. They definitely bond over, she reveals she had OD'd before. She's seen him, high and tried to take care of him. So it was definitely the first episode where if you were going to think that potentially there could be some romantic something there, that maybe that's like the spark episode for that. And it was really nice that Bloom, again, in his genius, kind of recycles a bit of that and brings that theme back out for this, because it's a big moment. This is a big episode for things Brightwell related. So it was nice to get like a little hint of it there. And I'll be honest, I missed the hint of it on the elevator in my first watch. I totally lost my mind over the finale part later that we will discuss. I was like, but when I rewatched, I was like, oh my God, it's here. And it just made me all in the feels and fuzzy.
I heard it and I immediately thought, it was like, Angie's going to be so proud of me because I recognized it for once. I was listening.
So one of the things I really like about this episode is the symbolism of the actual crime versus the things that are going on in Dream Malcolm world. Because this entire real life crime boils down to a father, a parent serial killer that has hid what they've done from their child. And the child finds out at the end of the episode, oh my gosh, my father was a serial killer. And maybe he had changed. We don't know, you know, whatever. But that's such a juxtaposition of like, that's Malcolm's experience. And that has to do with the dream where he doesn't know again in the dream and all of that. Like, so even the real life case has a lot of similarities to the things that we're about to see in the hallucination that aren't case based.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool to be like, okay, this person is like the female version of Malcolm in that situation.
Yeah. And I wrote it in my notes somewhere, but I'm not sure. It's probably later on. Something came to mind that in comparison to that, or I should say, you know, in opposite of that, Martin didn't entirely hide everything from Malcolm. Like he was like, we have flashback scenes of him like trying to get Malcolm to cut something with a scalpel, and granted he didn't show him everything all at once, but like he wasn't hiding what he was doing 100%, versus, you know, this other father that we see who managed to keep it hidden from his daughter because he didn't want her to know what he was.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering. So it seemed like the timeline of the Bowery Ripper for this episode was like prior to having a child, because that was like, I feel like the Ripper stuff was like earlier than what her age would have been. When
they said like 40, that person at least hadn't been, their murder hadn't been solved for like, the number I heard was 40 years.
Right. So that daughter could have been very 40 young or younger, or a little, and then the guy stopped or whatever. Whereas I feel like, was Martin serial killing before Malcolm was around? Like, I mean, we don't really have an answer to that. We don't know. But it's interesting to wonder, did he start doing that like because he couldn't handle the pressures of being a dad and a surgeon and everything? Like what? It's just something we don't know. So I would be interested to know, was he killing before he met Jess? Was he killing before the kids? Did it all happen after? That's just some stuff we really don't know yet.
Yeah, and that's something that I want to talk about later when we find out the actual killer was the man. It's very similar to a real life case in which a man did kind of, I mean, if you look at famous serial killers, there is a range between, did they stop when they had kids? Were they killing while they had kids? There's always a range. And with the real life killer that I sort of wonder if this guy was based on, it looks like he took breaks in between his children and then went back out a couple years later and then eventually stopped altogether.
Speaking of kids, at 10:40, there's an adorable picture in the office behind Ainsley of baby Ains and baby Malcolm, and it's the cutest thing ever.
I had noticed there was a picture there, but I didn't stop
to like
episode look at it.
You could kind of see it a little bit when Jess was down there and they were talking, like she was calling etiquette school girlfriends and things, and I'm like, I couldn't tell who it was, and for a minute I thought it was like Hurt and Jen, and I'm like, are they just like, they don't have any stock photos, so they threw that picture back there and like no one will notice. And then we got a closer shot of it and I was like, oh, it's the babies. They were so cute.
I love how they both have pictures of each other as kids. Like if we recall I think it was the finale when Malcolm is like packing himself up to go away. His nightstand, he has a picture of him and Ainsley.
Yep.
Because it's adorable.
Yes.
So at 11:19, I found Mr. Nathaniel Bloom's little secret Ainsley nugget he was telling us about.
Oh.
I thought for sure it was going to be at the end, and I will talk about the end when we get there. It is not. So this is the first of kind of a couple nuggets, but when Malcolm goes into the office and sits down with Ainsley and says, is there anything that you want to talk about? Like he asks if she's angry. She kind of looks at him before she responds. And you can tell, like, at first she feels like very like tense, and then she kind of softens and goes no or whatever. In that moment when she's tense, there's what's called an inverted theme. So like, for example, the typical, forgive me, I'm going to hum. I'm not a great singer. There's the typical like do, 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 do that happens when it's like the We're the Same theme. This one goes the opposite. It goes do 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 do, like it goes opposite, but it's the same method and the same rhythm of the We're the Same theme. And so I was like, Bloom, you sneaky bastard. Like I was like, there it is. And it's very short and very chill, but I was like, so I think if we do get like a full-fledged theme for her, it's going to be very similar, but it's going to be like the photo negative of the Malcolm Martin version, which is going to be really so
very creepy and very fun. I'm very excited.
It's delightful.
Yes.
So cool.
I want at 1348 to again say Bright is progressively getting better at calling for backup. He called on his way. He wasn't there yet. He called en route, which is an improvement. Normally he's like, hey, I'm in the middle of a basement with 17 giant guys with weapons. I need some backup. So luckily he's getting there. Now he still doesn't wait when she asks him to wait. And in fact, hangs up on her straight up like, click, not talking.
Like I said, not last episode because I wasn't here, but the episode before that what is that? 4? Is that 4th episode? Like he calls for backup and never finishes the phone call. Either something happens to him or he just like, what? And click, bye.
He's the dog from Up where he's like, squirrel. Like he immediately like found something shiny to lock onto.
So we got the call for backup. Now can we have the finish your phone call and listen and wait?
He doesn't want to hear the response, which is going to be stop it and stay right where you are. He's like, oh, I never heard it. My phone disconnected.
We have some static. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
At 1536, I am here for the fact that in kind of this dream reality, Malcolm and Danny tag teaming these interrogations like freaking bosses. They are finishing each other's sentences. They are boom, 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 grilled, done, signed, confession. Like, I mean, I love that because as we move on and we start to realize, okay, this is not reality. This is obviously like a fantasy of the perfect things he wants for his life. It's not just the romantic side that is perfectly clicking with them. It's the job side. It's the fact that he is a member of the NYPD, which is what he wants. He wants to be a part. The fact that him and her working together, and even JT's like, you guys are on fire. Like they were killing it. And it's not just about, I want her romantically. It's like, I want to have that closeness and that trust as a partner. And it was amazing. I've rewatched it like 3 times. I was like, they don't even get to the end of a sentence before the other one jumps in. I was like, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a testament to the fact that there's all these references to them calling each other partners. It's more than romantic. It is way beyond that in this.
That's what the kids are calling it.
Yeah.
As Martin said.
Ayo.
I mean, he wasn't wrong.
Right?
Yeah. And one of the things sorry, Angie. One of the things I pointed out in my notes was that we haven't been told it, like it hasn't been said yet that he's a detective. And so watching that scene was really interesting because I was like, we've not seen this. We've seen Malcolm in an interrogation room offering some information, asking some questions, especially in the last episode, Bad Manners. He brought evidence in and was asking some questions, but he wasn't fully interrogating the guy. Whereas watching this, I was like, what is weird about this? What is like feeling odd about this? Because as a profiler, Malcolm is not allowed to be in the interrogation room and interrogate suspects. He does it elsewhere and, gets his answers other ways. But I was just like, it took me a while and like through processing, like writing down my notes and stuff to realize, that looked weird to you because we don't get to see that. So that was really nice to see.
Which leads us to family dinner. I wanted to do a really cool shout out. So we have this first moment where, and it actually happens really quickly in the precinct before he gets told to go home. He starts to have these like little episodes of like things are happening, or he has a concussion, he has a headache, whatever. And every time that he has this, you hear this like really distinct sound that I realize later on throughout the episode is the sound of the steel cables in the elevator shaft. I can't replicate it with my mouth. It's just not a sound. But like, it's a sound that any moviegoer knows. If you've ever seen a movie or a TV show that involves an elevator or some kind of like they're snapping and the elevator is going to fall, it's that metallic sound that you hear from those cables. And I love that that was something they weaved into it. Like, he's really in the bottom of the elevator shaft hearing the elevator coming down and what the noise that those cables would be making, and that's what's triggering his episodes in the dream world. And I just thought that was such a cool addition with the editing. That was really neat.
Well, Angie, it's very funny.
Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's do this. Okay. So this was probably one of my favorite episodes aside from the Brightwell standpoint, because, oh my God, we got so much neurology. I am just like, God bless. Okay. So then, of course, Malcolm has another thing with his head, and the family notices, and Ainsley points out, oh, you have contusions. There was a lot of medical vocab in this whole scene, which I adored. Contusions is a medical term for bruises. Malcolm says he fell from 3 or 4 floors. Bruh, a floor is 14 feet.
That's a lot.
And landed perfectly straight like he was laying in bed on a pillow.
So
That's my one complaint with this episode. What is happening?
This dude fell like from 42 to 56 feet to the ground.
Lot.
That is a lot.
You can get a concussion just from falling from your own height. Like,
yes, exactly.
Like, you can get a concussion.
And we know there's blood. Like, there was lots of blood under his head in the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Like,
seems sketchy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. And people are not really sure what's the technical height that you can fall from somewhere and still live. Some people say about 20 feet, which obviously, Malcolm, you ain't gonna laugh now. But again, just everybody's different.
All right. So at 2010, we kind of have the first moment where Team Brightwell died 1,000 deaths. And that was Malcolm wakes up from this dream. And who wakes up right next to him? Miss Danny Powell. I'm going to do my best not to just go straight off, because I know not the whole fandom is hardcore Brightwell. But that being said, for those of us that are, it was definitely like oh snap, like, yeah, we know it's not real, but the fact that this scene, she's there comforting him, and she says the phrase that they are home. And that, like, so in his subconscious, what he needs to soothe him in those moments is her in their home. And it was just the sweetest, most like, my heart, it's so adorable.
And not only that,
and I want more content.
Yeah, and not only that, and like, I'm like a sappy, kind of person, a little bit, like, home. Yeah, that's more than just a place. Her reference to home is the two of them, like, wherever, being wherever. So I was just like,
guys.
Yes.
Also, total side note, in the next scene leading up to that is the couch, which is the other moment when 1,000 Brightwell deaths happen. But I really want his freaking chess set. That is the coolest chess set ever. And I mentioned it in my write-up way back in the day, the first time it appeared on his coffee table. It is so like minimalist and glass and cool, and I want it. I don't even touch it. I just want to put it somewhere so it looks cool. So the couch. This is the other moment that slayed much of our collective fandom.
Oh boy.
So here's the thing. In addition to all the glory that is the next morning, some of us are pantsless couch snuggles.
I like it. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
We learn in this moment that Malcolm is Whitley, not Bright, which we had not heard at all. I loved it. I loved the, like, he doesn't have to hide from a past that supposedly doesn't exist. And so not only is he, partnered both romantically and employment-wise with someone, and things are going well, and his family's happy. Like, he just, all of this trauma that we've watched him try to deal with for the entire length of this show, it's just gone. Like you can see in the way that Tom portrays him, like it's almost like you can see his shoulders higher. Like he's not burdened. He's not just being weighed down by all of those things. And when Danny said that, I was like, of course, like he wouldn't need to be bright. And it was just, it hurt a little, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't want him to be Malcolm Whitley. I'm like, no, but it makes sense that would have been his perfect route, you know? And quite frankly, that Brightwell kiss will sustain me until my death. So
that's my life.
I don't care what happens. I mean, we're gonna get renewed. I'm not gonna even speak other things out into the universe. But even if they never give me real life Brightwell, at least I have this moment where I can say they were all domestic and adorable and legs were over other legs and they were cuddly and there was kissy face. And it makes me so happy.
Made me very, very happy to see so many of you people who are like, oh, I don't know how I feel about fluff, to be like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right?
I mean, it was like, this is like, I'm like 95% wump with like a touch of fluff, but this was the touch of fluff that my heart needed for sure.
Living in it.
Oh, one of the things he said while they were sitting there, when Danny asked him, like, what is going on, because you seem far away, was he said, I have everything I want, but there's moments where I feel like I don't deserve it. And I kind of like put in capital letters in my notes with that, like, imposter syndrome. Like, I know there's a reason why he feels distant, because he's like, you know, in that dream state and still in and out of it kind of thing. But at the same time, like, that's that's the definition of imposter syndrome, and it sucks.
Yeah.
At 25:37, we get a literal shot for shot, sound for sound remake of the pilot.
Yes.
When we get to see what I am forever calling Teen Wolf Gil, you cannot change my mind. He is Teen Wolf Gil. I don't care. But I mean, I went back and I rewatched the pilot, like with the exception of there are some slightly different shots when Malcolm's coming down the hallway because he has like the stress ball and some other stuff from the pilot. But every single shot of the handcuffs, the twisting hands at his waist with Gil, the cardigan adjustment, the keys, all of this, and the exact moments of the score at the exact same time. Even to like the zoom in on Bright when he's standing there before the Gil reveal. It was all just, I'm like, oh, and this is like the second time this season that they've given us like a reshoot of that moment. And I just want to hear Lou Diamond Phillips talk about the absolute blast he had getting into that character, just being able to kind of channel the crazy. He got to charge at Michael Sheen. I mean, come on.
Because he's not Gil. It's the first episode he's not Gil.
Like I said earlier, like I want more of Tom Paine impersonating his fellow cast, which I agree. But I did not know the sleeper I wasn't waiting for was Gil and being Martin. I wasn't prepared for it, but now I'm here for it. Let's do that some more too.
Oh my God. I just want to see a BTS photo when they did lose hair like that. Because he took a selfie and he was like, ah!
Oh yeah, he totally did.
So or he was just putting on all the chops, like all the extra facial hair and stuff.
Oh my God, it's
so funny. And his legs look so tiny in the little scrubs he wore. Like he's got such tiny little legs. At this point, when he's in Claremont, Malcolm puts the pieces together like I'm still in the elevator shaft. Like it all comes together. So at this point, he's kind of lucid dream state. Like he knows that it's a dream and that he now has a mission to complete this dream supposedly and get through it. And what I really loved at like the 30-31 mark was like the Swan Revelations, where everything starts to kind of go together. And much to our editor Britt's excitement, I'm about to make a massive Disney reference here. This whole scene reminded me so much of the scene in Tangled where Rapunzel starts seeing the suns. She realizes that these things were all around her the whole time and these clues were there the whole time. And they kind of did like those quick flashes of the picture and the art, the piece over his fireplace and then the swan cufflink and all that. And I was like, oh, it's like Tangled when she realizes I'm the princess. Which, Malcolm's a princess. So, Like it was just a really cool sequence that reminded me of that moment where like all the little pieces come together. I've been seeing them everywhere.
Okay, so one of the things I noted here was that everything that is being said or done or seen by Malcolm is coming from his own brain, even though there are other people. It's kind of, it's Malcolm's subconscious, and we've seen Malcolm's subconscious represented by his father. Another time that he passed out, I believe that was the professionals. Martin showed up and helped him figure things out right there. So that was his subconscious. We saw in the trip that his subconscious becomes himself in place of Martin. And now we're seeing, we're kind of seeing two things from Gil being here, I think. We're seeing Gil being his subconscious in Martin's place now. But also this form of Gil represents reality, because he mentions the surgeon, he mentions, and they flash back to it scene-wise, Gil showing up at the door and Martin answering it with the cup of tea. That is all stuff that we know is true and consistent with the reality in the show. So,
and this is the first time that we get a clue that like it's not that Martin isn't a serial killer.
Yeah.
It's that he doesn't know that his father is a serial killer. Yeah.
And I like how they played that, because I was like, he started saying these things and I was like, how are they gonna like fit this in, all of these things that Gil is saying? I thought they were gonna
play Gil as the serial killer.
Yeah.
But then when they kept him as the cop, I'm like, wait, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
And I was like, aha.
So I really liked that he said what happened in reality, but it was he drank the tea, woke up 3 days later, and started spouting off all these crazy things.
Here's another, why did Martin not kill him? Why did he?
Because that was his original. That was his original plan. Yeah. So because Malcolm was around, I don't know, maybe he didn't do anything.
More details we need in this whole backstory situation. We need like 206.5.
Yeah.
we need a half episode or something to explain some of these things.
Yeah.
Where are the deleted scenes and the bloopers?
Yeah. So that was just really cool to watch those kind of two things that Gil represented in that the portion of the episode.
I mean, Gil is so important to Malcolm in the real world, and pointing things out to him that he wouldn't otherwise realize about himself. And so it was nice to see, even if the situation was kind of flipped in this reality, Gil was still that person who led him down the right path.
Yeah.
It's very nice to see, because in this reality, Gil isn't that like, Papa Bear presence in Malcolm's life, which I love and adore, but at least he's still helping him out.
Right. So I loved the coloring in this hallway. So like the final hallway scene where we have in the dream, the Ripper is confronting Martin, and then Malcolm is having to confront both of them. The lights just consistently change to like different shades of red and purple and blue, and all of that is representative of his psyche, like of how things are happening in Malcolm's head. And I also love that he thinks that this is going to fix the problem. Like if I solve this case and I take down the bad guy, then I'm going to just magically poof, like show back up in reality. And like, that's the whole thing. And then it doesn't necessarily work out that way. I know, Jess, you had a couple things to hit there.
Yeah. First off, in that scene, before he like realizes, before everything goes down and he realizes like, why hasn't descended. Martin is a really big fan of Danny, and literally the first thing he asks when they walk into that darn hotel is Danny here?
He's a fan of her in real life, though. I mean, Aurora, what was that tweet Aurora said where she's like, listen, he likes her in this realm too. Like, he's a huge fan regardless.
My new friend Danny. So
they're BFFs now.
That was just really funny to see.
I want him to call her from Claremont. Like they're in the conference room sometime, all of the team, and then Danny's phone rings and he's like, "Hey, Danny," and then Malcolm just looks over like, "What the frick?"
And she's like, "Go to hell, bitch."
Yeah.
Like, I will blow your head off. Click.
Yeah. I was not kidding. I mean that.
There's a lot that goes on in this scene from the time that they walk into the artist loft, or I should say end up in the hallway that Angie mentioned with the funky lighting with the blue and the red and whatnot. So there's a ton that goes on, and you've got Dream Martin being held at knife point by the killer, the serial killer that we learn is the Bowery Ripper, and he's there it is in my notes. Like I said, so I mentioned it earlier. He said I couldn't let my daughter know what I was, but like I had mentioned earlier, Martin didn't entirely hide that from Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the mention of lying to protect family. So another one of those lines that calls back to, reality for them. And Malcolm has said it multiple times that he's a detective at this point, but it still took a reminder from Martin. Dude, you're a detective. Like,
detectives have weapons.
Yeah. So I thought that was just really funny. Like, dude, you've said it multiple times. You're a detective. And
shout out to Capable Bright. The third time in the whole series we've seen it happen.
Oh boy, we need more.
Ricky, this is for you. Shout out to Capable Bright. You and me, girl. You and me. We're on that wavelength.
In regards to him being a detective, we start seeing him, once he enters the artist loft, we start seeing him act like a profiler again. He's not a profiler in this dream state, but that's all he knows in reality. So his subconscious has has given him those abilities. So he starts going, being the profiler that we know, but that's not actually Dream Malcolm. So because he had no reason to become a profiler. Yeah, anyway, so God, like I said, there's just so much going on in this episode. We see Malcolm pull out a gun and shoot. The last time we saw Malcolm pull out a gun, he couldn't shoot it. He didn't do it. And so he manages... Yes, he manages to do it in this episode. And actually, one of the things, I went back and watched a few times to take a look at like his reaction. He looks confused. He shot the gun and then he like kind of looks at his hand like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Like,
well, but that confusion is because he thought he would wake up.
Yes, and then I realized like immediately after, so I feel like it's kind of like a two-part, like immediately, like because he kind of like looked at his hand and then was like, why am I still here? So I was
supposed to fix it. Why am I still standing in the hallway?
I need to tap my toes again.
Yeah.
There's no place like home.
There's no place.
And I have that written right after that. So he and then he gets a hug. Malcolm gets a hug. Our fandom keeps screaming about Malcolm needing a hug, but Malcolm got a hug from someone. Okay.
I didn't want.
We would say Malcolm doesn't need a hug from.
The hug. Thank you, Kara. Yes. You and I are on the same page. I'm like, he does need a hug, but does it have to be from Martin?
Yeah.
I didn't want this hug.
We would say he doesn't.
Can it be like Gil or somebody? Just let Gil hug him. Or JT. I am here for a JT.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, please.
Yes. Bro hug.
Let's go. Let's go.
So, but he ends up with a hug from Martin. And one of the things that we've heard Tom say a lot in his interviews is that, especially early on, there's this tension with him of he knows how horrible his father is. He knows his father's a serial killer. He's mad at his father. He's angry at him. But at the same time, he still loves him.
Yeah.
And he is highly upset that he missed out on an older childhood and his teenage and young adult life years without a father. So
the formative years.
Yeah. And all he really wants is a hug. And those are the words Tom actually says, is he wants a hug from his dad.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, writers. You gave us a hug from his dad.
Yeah, they're giving us all the content in dream reality, just not in the real world.
Yeah. It's also like, baby, no, you don't need a hug from him. He sucks.
Not him.
No.
But
which right after that at 33-39, once he solved it, like we're talking about the confusion and the misunderstanding, it ends up leading into like kind of the celebration at the Whitley's house with the champagne or whatever, and the song choice is just pristine. I'm not really sure. I tried to find how to pronounce it. I think it's Rostam is the name of the group, and the song is Don't Let It Get to You, the reprise. But that song that plays while they're celebrating and while he's like getting the hug from his dad and he's like, I'm still here, I don't know what's going on, it's so perfect. Like there are some of these lyrics and it plays again later as well. It takes a pause for a minute and then it plays again. But the lyrics are, You're not going to get it exactly how you want, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. It's not going to feel the way you expected, and it's going to hurt to figure it out. But if you're patient and you're kind, and I don't know why, and it's no fun, I still think please don't let it get to you. Like, so there's it's literally the dream described. It's the dream described. Everything you wanted is not going to be the way that you hoped. And it hit. Like when I read the lyrics, because sometimes when these songs happen, either they're sang in a certain way that you can't quite understand the lyrics perfectly, or there's other stuff going on and you're not focused. So when you go back and you read the lyrics as that moment's happening, it hits. And then this is also the same song that plays in a moment, which I'll come back to that in just a second. And it hits even worse in that moment too. So then we have, Team Whitley popping champagne and apparently having pickles with champagne. Maybe I am not pickles. High class. Clearly I am not wealthy and well-to-do, but get the baby pickles with your glass of champagne. Is that a thing? Or do we have rich listeners? Probably not. Is anyone rich? Anyone want to tell me if that's a thing? Like
the tiny pickles.
That sounds why don't you have pickles in a peanut butter sandwich? Because that sounds about equally as delicious.
Yeah, pickles aren't my jam regardless of what they're paired with. So
yeah. Right. Well, that's usually like a very opinionated food for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also kind of found out through some tweets from Aurora that this scene, it sounds like she was supposed to be in this scene, but it was, I know. Carol, you missed the Discord discussion. Okay, Carol, listen. So
gonna fill you in right here.
Listen, girl, listen. So it sounds like that she was scheduled to be in this scene and maybe it was filmed early or she was still quarantined and they needed her. So they tried to rewrite or switch as much as they could to not have her. So they gush over her, right? Like, basically, when are you going to put a ring on it, Malcolm? And that whole scene. And so my argument here, we of course went on a little tangent, like, damn it, she wasn't there. And then I said, oh guys, wouldn't it have been amazing if she was supposed to be in the final scene too, and she was in the basement with Malcolm and he had to look at her when he chose to go away?
Oh, shut up. Shut up. You ruined it. That's it. Bye,
Brett,
guys. See you next week.
Brett was like, I hate you.
Yep.
I hate you to death.
I think I walked in at like the end of that discussion and read through it and I was like, excuse me, this is what I come back to.
Meanwhile, Carrie and Joy and I are like, yes.
No, stop. I am on Britt's side. How dare you even put that thought into my head? I just had a vision of that in my mind. I'm not happy right now.
That would have hit hard. Holy cow. Which leads us to this final, what I thought was going to be a girl in the box, but they kind of hoodwinked us a little bit there. This final scene, I absolutely loved it. So there's this particular score that happens while the closer Malcolm gets to the box, there's and Martin is making all these dramatic exclamations to try to get him to stop. There's this kind of consistent thump that gets like faster and faster and faster, which is his like heart rate of him like realizing what he has to do and all of that, which is really cool representation. And they make like the Schrodinger's reference, which I loved. Like Herr Schrodinger would disagree. And Malcolm says Dr. Whitley in this scene. Which is our first indicator of like, this is reality Malcolm now. Like he's pretty much back. Like there is no confusion about what's happening and what's going on. We got a little bit of it in the upstairs when he was kind of like, I need to go get some snacks. But now like, okay, this is our OG Malcolm back. He's cognizant within this stream. And I absolutely love how the set department did like the shaking of everything around him to be his psyche. Like all these jars and everything around him is shaking as he's making the decision to, even though it's going to hurt, he's going to leave this reality. And it hit. And again, I feel like I say Tom's performance like 15 times in every C.S.A. episode, but the absolute heartbreaking pain in his eyes when he says, stay for her, she won't be here. It hits. It freaking, I am not the most emotional of people. It takes a minute for me to get to that level, and that hit, and looking at the tears in Tom's eyes, it just damn, like it was absolutely superbly done. It was beautiful.
Yeah. I had accidentally paused it at that point and like looked up and I was like, oh geez, I just him right there, teary-eyed, staring at the camera.
Seriously, it hits.
Oh boy. Yeah, and when Michael says, son, stay for her, there's something about the levity in Michael's voice with how he I don't know if it was intentional or just what happened, but there was just some levity in his voice that I can't describe, and it just like gives you more of the feels. I don't know. Well, it's just really nice the way he said it.
Martin absolutely knows that is his last ace in the hole to play.
Yeah.
Like in Dream, Martin knows like if anything's going to keep him here, it's this play right now, and he plays his last ace, and it just it doesn't work.
Yeah. As much as Malcolm wants it to.
Yeah, because he wants someone that he can be open and honest with, which he does not have in real life. You know, even with Martin, you know, as Martin being the only other person, well, now it's Jessica, but for most intents and purposes, the only other person who knows about what Ainsley did.
Yeah.
Like, he still can't be open and totally honest with him because he's a freaking serial killer. Like, he has a good person in his life in this reality who actually trusts him, who wants to communicate with him, who wants to, you know, hear the good, bad, and the ugly. He does not have that in the real world. So,
no.
And what's so heartbreaking about it is he has that. If it wasn't this secret to share. Exactly. Like, because you know, Gil, Danny, and at this point, even JT would be like, hey man, like, do you need to talk? Like, so he's so close. And that's what makes it all the worse.
Yeah.
Is he is right there, but this is the one thing that he cannot tell them. And not even just because they're cops. If they weren't cops, this is still the one thing that it goes too far.
Exactly.
And he can't tell. And that's what's so like just gut-wrenching about he's so close to the perfect reality. Yeah. Even if in real life he never ends up with Danny, he's so close to that partnership, to that like that just we're vibing on that same level, and it's so close, but that far away at the same time.
It is the ultimate secret.
Yeah. Which I love that they have those moments of like it's something that the burden and the cross that he has to bear, and it is weighing him down a lot.
Yeah.
So flip that around. At 37:49, I am here for the fact that other than him opening the box and accepting that he's going to leave this reality, it's Danny's Bright that wakes him up in the shaft. Like you hear Danny say Bright, and then his eyes open in the elevator shaft. So, you know, still holding on to that dream. It's like Braveheart, where it's like, you can never take my freedom. It's like I'm holding on to my brain. Like,
great Scottish, Angie.
I try. I rolled the R a little more, but I didn't want to be too dramatic.
Can I just mention that when he wakes up, he looks over and sees that skull and goes, "Hi."
And then he thanks it for its participation later.
But see, I loved that though.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much.
I got really like, I got very sentimental over that, because if you think about it, like investigators and stuff, they have these connections with their victims, and you know, if it weren't for them, they wouldn't be able to catch these people. So it just, to me, it was like, you know, an investigator thanking the victim, like, I'm sorry that this happened to you, but thank you for unlocking it. So I was probably the only one who was like, this is so sweet. And everyone else was like, this guy needs medical attention in so many ways.
Okay, so Kara, I have you marked as something for this section.
That was the reveal of the serial killer.
Okay, so you want to hit that?
Sure.
Okay.
So then we eventually find out, after Malcolm comes to this conclusion thanks to said skull, him and Danny go up to the apartment where the old guy in the wheelchair forget his name, and his daughter Liv. And we find out that he actually is not wheelchair bound. He is a fully capable man. And also,
which how pissed is the daughter? Like, I have been wheeling your ass for years.
You are not. You are pretty heavy, dude.
No elevator in this building.
The things I do for you, Dad. I could be living in a penthouse.
Just me.
No, hey. Old people are not light, let me tell you. This actually was kind of interesting for me because anyone who's into true crime would know, hopefully, of the Golden State Killer, who actually was called the original Night Stalker, as another frame of reference back to.
One.
Yeah, there you go. And actually, when this guy was arrested in 2018, he was arrested at the house that he lived in with his daughter, one of his daughters.
Wow.
So I loved that reference.
That's a good reference.
Yeah. And when they initially arrested this guy and they took him to trial, there's court video of him like appearing to be sentenced, and he's in a wheelchair and he looks very like slumped over. He looks like an old man. And all the investigators were saying, don't believe it. Like, don't buy into this. Like, this man is fully capable. And then video footage was released of this guy doing like pull-ups and push-ups in his cell. And so I loved the whole like reference to that with this killer. I don't know if they had specifically thought of this guy, but I was just like, nice GSK, nice GSK reference.
Sure.
Yeah,
it is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At 38:27, when Malcolm kind of reunites with Danny and JT, and he's very kind of stumbly and like, when was the last time I spoke to you? That same song by Rostam plays again, like and it works so perfectly with this scene where he's seeing Danny for the first time since he saw her in his dream reality. First of all, he's massively banged up, way more so than we were shown on screen. Not that I'm bitter that I keep getting robbed of hospital scenes with Malcolm. Stabbed? No hospital scene. Fine. Falls down 4 flights of stairs. No hospital scene. It's fine. You just brush it off and put some fancy hair gel on that $10,000 suit and we'll clean it up. It'll be fine.
Not accurate.
All right, mini rant. I'm good. I'm fine.
No, I'm right there with you.
But that song is like, and the way Tom delivers the "When was the last time I saw you?" It's like whispered, like he barely gets it out of his mouth. It sounds almost like a "help me" the way he says it, and I'm always the person that like the scene will get me, but when you add the right music, it's end of my life. Like waterworks happen, and this was a moment where that song combined with that moment just hit me, and all the frisson, all the the little spiky hairs, and it just, I was like, God bless. And they did such a good job. Aurora as like the unknowing kind of looks like she doesn't know what's going on in his head, and then Tom is the like, oh, it's her. Like, and he's already been like, I know what it feels like for her to fall asleep on my chest now. And I know what it feels like to snuggle on a cat. I know. Thank you. This is me. I'm just watching it. I'm like, I can't take it.
I actually sobbed out loud at this point. I was literally crying out loud.
Like, it was so well written too. Like so many props to Wyatt Kane. Like it was amazing. Yeah. At 40:52, we have that final scene between Malcolm and Danny, the kind of longing looks when the other one's not looking. Yes. And we have a couple things. The return of kind of the full drink more tea with friends music underplaying this moment. And I love that. First of all, that Gil's going to die and be buried in a turtleneck. That's fine. We knew that. We knew that. That's not news. And her delivery, Aurora's deadpan, like, that man will be buried in a turtleneck. Like, don't even joke about that. I love that she picks a particular question that isn't the question she's asking. She asks, was I different in your dream? Which is really, was I there? Because she has not heard anything about whether or not she was in his dream, and she kind of the way it's played wanted to be, maybe felt a little left out if she was not. And so she very wisely chooses a question that isn't, was I in your dream?
Yeah.
It's, was I different? Like it was a nice way to find out, was I there, without sounding like you have to ask that question.
Yeah.
And so that was a really clever writing trick on Wyatt Kane's part. But again, here we are confiding in each other. We're sharing things. We're having a little bit of banter. And there's that same music from the first time that they had moments like this. And then we have the full circle. The one thing you never do is bore me. And the way they edit that together is stunning.
Boy.
Stunning.
Absolutely beautiful.
And just the edits during the scene period where he sees her, what was I like? And then it flash. And then, you know, kind of different flash, like where he's trying to be like, focus. This is what it was like. It's beautiful. I love that this relationship has grown. If you are not Team Bright, well, you know, whatever, it's grown at least platonically. Like it's absolutely a situation where they're confiding in each other more. Like there could be a family aspect there. If you are Brightwell, then like it's clear for that faction that like there's a taste of more happening at that point, especially for Bright. Maybe we don't know 100% where Danny stands yet, and it's a little bit more ambiguous, but for Bright, it is very much that moment. And she calls him Malcolm.
Yep.
Which she calls him Malcolm in the dream.
Yeah.
They're at the precinct. She says Malcolm. And I didn't notice that the first time either.
I did. That was the first
but
time.
I was like,
oh, hello.
Okay. So it's not the first time ever, because I was going to say this is the first time in the whole series, but it's technically the second. It is the first time
in reality.
Danny has called him Malcolm, which is just not something she's like, that's kind of intimate, I think. Like the whole cops and military and maybe firefighters as well. Like I know I have military family experience. It's last name basis.
Yeah.
Like half the time someone will say like, what's that dude's first name? Well, I don't know. That's Jones. Like, I don't know what his first name is. He's Jones, like that. And the cops are very similar. It's a last name basis. And for her that it was always Bright. Like it's always, Bright.
Yeah.
And
it's professional.
For her to call him Malcolm is like it's almost more intimate than a kiss for me. Like for whatever reason, that's like a next level take on this friendship. Yeah,
exactly.
Like just like I guess it'd be weird if Bright started calling her Powell because he's never done that. It's always been Danny. But like it's such an intimate thing for her to say that, and then to see his reaction and that little whispered goodbye. And just, I swear, whoever. Kane, you wrote the end of this, like just literally, did you just go through all the Brightwell, Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram and go, how can I feed the fandom the content that
God. How can I kill them?
Sustain and kill them in the same scene.
It's 4 words. It's called Archive of Our Own. And
someone was on AO3 for sure.
That's how you get into our brains.
Yes.
I had rewatched this at work today, so like I do like a rewatch with notes and stopping and everything, and then I do a final rewatch where I like try to mostly focus on the audio for 2 reasons, but mostly because I'm also multitasking and doing it at work when I shouldn't be. So I just leave the audio on and do stuff so that I can hear the music and like pick up on things that are being said rather than seen. And I had flipped back to Hulu to finish watching the scene, and it just like I went in Discord and like started screaming. It just absolutely killed me, and it's just like, why that little goodbye that's so quiet after she's out of earshot.
And what I love is that's such a layered goodbye, because you can look at it as the like, oh, I wish we were together. But then you can also look at it as there's my chance at happiness, but I can't because I've already ruined it with all the stuff I know and can't tell her. Yeah. Like there's so many layers to that goodbye. It's not just romantic. Like it's also like there's the partner I could have. There's the happiness I could have. There's the trust and confidant I could have. And it's just goodbye to all of it. See you later. Like and it hits hard. It hurts.
Yeah. And she gave him room to say that. She said,
Yeah.
was I different? And he could have been like, yeah, you and I were a thing, and you know, we were happy, and I didn't have nightmares, and
yeah. He even could have played it off to be funny and would have
And he
been
could've
like,
put it
hey,
up, yeah.
guess what? You and I were together. Isn't
Yeah.
that ridiculous?
Yeah.
Like,
And
yeah.
then he could have been like, isn't that crazy? Watching the reaction. Is it, maybe it's not crazy. Hey,
I mean, there was still a little bit of that though, because then he does that really longing, that the 1,000-mile look that absolutely breaks my heart. So
Yep,
he still kind of
yeah.
does it, but in a way that sort of creeps her out too. She's like, good night, Malcolm. Like, what are you doing?
Hey, buddy.
It was just, oh my God. I have no words. I'm just so
And
upset.
since we can't leave in a puddle of fluff, we have to add
no.
one scene after it. We have to, at 42:10, we have Ainsley is in Malcolm's apartment. Props to Tom for most, like not most, for all of this episode. The one episode that really hit me hard in the first season was the penultimate episode, 119. Like, he acted not that he doesn't act his ass off every week, but that one for me, I was like, give this man a freaking Emmy nomination. Like, it was pissing me off. And this one is similar but different. Like, we know that based on interviews, he's not exactly, on the Brightwell ship right now. He's really not in a place for it, that it's not really organic, and that's cool. It's all good. But he is absolutely bringing Malcolm and acting Malcolm, contrary to what are kind of his personal opinions, I think. And he's killing it. Like, you would not know based on how he's acting what his kind of more personal opinion on it is. And it's just the puppy dog eyes and the longing. And now we're in here with Ainsley and his delivery. He finally is just, I have to tell you this. I have some stuff to tell you. Yeah. And he tells her, I'm sorry, I lied. And his voice breaks 3 times. Yeah. 4 words. Like, you can tell he is, like, he's about to cry.
Yeah.
And not just Malcolm, like Tom is about to cry, delivering, like, and it's not a sad, like, he is sorry, but I feel like it's almost that, like, it's a relief. Have you ever done that where, like, you finally have a moment of relief in something fun and you just break down because you're like, oh my God, it's over. Like, I feel like it's kind of like that. Like, he has finally spoken the words and it's just, it all comes to a head at that point and it hits him. And I did not see the twist. They were right in the promo. I did not see the twist coming. I did not expect that shocking finale, but I knew she was sounding very weird when she was talking. Like, I was like, okay, something sketchy is happening. And when she does reveal, I just did this when she reveals. When she reveals the bloody clothing beneath the coat, she gets the full-on "we're the same" theme, which she has never gotten a full version of yet.
I turned the volume up for that, and I was like, I'm gonna make Angie proud, and I'm gonna listen.
Yes, ma'am, I am proud of you. Malcolm jumps back, and it is the full hard strings, holy shit, we're the same theme of, like, this is now a second time she's done it.
Yeah. And also the way that she admits it too, the tone in her voice is very flat. She's like, I blacked out again or something. Like, she is just like, I don't know what happened. And Malcolm is just like, oh my God. Whereas she's just very flat, like, this happened. Like,
I think she's still kind of in, like, a state of shock, especially if it happened. She just went straight to his place. Yeah.
And so that has a little bit of, like, a disassociative thing going on, but then it also could play into the sociology or sociopathy. Or I can never say the word the right way. Of her, like, so is she really just completely blacking out? Is she getting flashes of things and there's just no emotional response to it? Is it her brain not allowing her an emotional response because it will collapse on itself like a dying star?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was sort of wondering. I was thinking, is the flat tone because of possible sociopathy, or is it because she's still dissociative and she's still like, I did this?
Like, she really doesn't know what she's talking about.
She is not coming to terms with it. She's like showing it and be like, here, but she, like, hasn't processed it. Like, I killed someone again. Like,
God, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, like, God,
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at this outfit, Malcolm. And Malcolm's like, oh my God.
Yeah, there's something about putting Ainsley and Malcolm in bloody expensive clothing that they like to do a lot.
They enjoy that. They enjoy destroying clothing on this show.
So there's a lot of speculation on who this potential victim could be, if it's someone we already know or if it's someone coming up.
I hope it's a rat or a squirrel from a basement. Imagine!
That's a lot of...
Oh my God.
Hey, rats are big.
Did we see Sunshine? Bolo for Sunshine, the parakeet
Yet to
stat.
see Sunshine, so...
I killed my...
That's it. No, you want to know the hate that would come out of the fandom? If she killed Sunshine, this fandom would immediately be like, that's it, fire Halston Sage, kill Ainsley Whitley, get her
you
out.
could do other things, but not this.
Yeah, like she would be public enemy number 1 over anyone else in the entire show.
I so badly want to believe that now. I hate that I'm saying that.
All right, guys, we need a bolo on Sunshine stat.
Yeah, someone find her, please.
Some people are wondering if it was like that rich wealthy
Eddie?
guy, because
No.
he has a lot of kind of Endicott vibes of like the I can buy my way out of anything and I'm wealthy, I don't lose, blah blah blah. So for her, is that kind of like I don't like this guy because he reminds me of the other guy.
Yeah,
But she also...
Sorry, Carolyn.
I almost wonder if you and I are about to say the same thing. She says when Malcolm walks over to her after she interviews him, and she like says something like, you know, if he's gonna lie through his teeth, I'm gonna rip him out. Like that made me. And some people on Twitter talked about that too.
And by rip,
I mean, but the last interaction they had was like, not that it's something to kill somebody over, but the last interaction that they had was he cut her off. Like she asked him a question and he cut her off and was like, yep, nope, done, bye.
Yeah.
So that was like,
well, and she says right before that, you've been accused of bribery and, you know, this and that, which is all stuff that Endicott had been mixed up in.
Yes.
Like, so for her, that could be like, ooh, I don't like this guy, you know.
She's like a vigilante type with weird motivations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which now, knowing that this has happened, I was already excited for Alan Cumming to join and the character that he's going to play as like that kind of MI6 foil to Malcolm. But now it's not just Malcolm that Malcolm has to worry about. Like he's covering up multiple like pieces of this, like, dear God. And then you know for a fact, and God, it better happen, we're going to get a scene with Alan Cumming and Michael Sheen. Because he's going to go interview the surgeon, and then Malcolm is going to have to wonder, what the hell is he saying to this guy that has like this axe over my head? Like, he can pull this. I would not put it past Martin to be like, I could give you some intel if you can make it worth my while. You know,
yes.
Like, can you get me, you know, out of here? Can you get me some lower security? Like, so it's all going to come to a head. I love Catherine Zeta-Jones. I'm wondering where her character is going. I'm really hoping they don't try to make it like a romantic interest for Martin.
Oh God, I really
because there is this theory out there that sounds pretty plausible of like, is it going to be like, now that Jessica's spending more time with Martin, is she going to get all jealousy feels about things?
No!
I'm like, can I just swallow the bile in the back of my throat, please? And
she does not give a damn about him. Let's get over this.
Like when she walked out of his cell,
you're gross.
Shout out to Caroline and I to serial killer fangirls. You're gross. Like,
God.
So I'm excited. I'm not excited at the prospect that if it's a winter finale, we may have another multi-week hiatus following right after that. But I think some stuff's going to come to a head. I like having this kind of foil character for Malcolm now because it sounds like they're going to make him like equally as smart and as cunning in his job as him. So he's going to have to do a lot more than just hide some stuff from the NYPD than what he's been doing now. So that sounds interesting.
He can no longer assume that he's the smartest in the room.
And I will lose my mind if they let Alan Cumming have his actual voice. Please let us have his accent, please.
I mean, he says Europol. So.
That's it. He's from Europol, so I'm like, please just let him speak with his natural accent, please. And then let's have just, Malcolm do some kind of British joke, and then he can talk like himself for like 3 minutes.
Yes.
Right, so we have our last, not giveaway ever, but our last kind of swag giveaway for this week. We took a little bit of a hiatus to figure out how we wanted to work our final one and if we wanted to split it up or make it one big one. We just decided we're going to finish off with a bang and do kind of one big giveaway. And we're going to switch it up a little bit because since it is kind of the finale one, we really don't want the answers out all over the interwebs, kind of how we've done, code words and things before. So the first rule is, when we give you this question, you have to respond with an answer to our DMs. So you have to either DM us on Instagram or DM us on Twitter, both of which are at podcast C.S.A. with the answer so that we're not giving it out to just everybody and their mom. And so here's what we did. We had the pleasure of interviewing Nathaniel Bloom a couple weeks ago, who is our amazing composer for the show. And in that interview, I asked him who his influences were, which composers were ones that influenced his career path choice. So you need to tell me one of the composers that he listed as having greatly influenced his career choice. So you can DM either one of our social medias with an answer and you'll get put into the little randomizer I'll take a video of. And whoever gets chosen gets our last swag Prodigal Son spectacular. So do that. We'll put a reminder out there onto social media for that as well. And then we go into an off week next week. Yep. So we'll have to, we'll find you guys on social media. We'll make sure we're active and we're interacting with you guys and stuff, but we have an off week. And we are going to give those of us, since all of us have 40-hour-a-week jobs and 2 of us have children, we're going to give us a week off and take a moment and do that. So let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know theories. Who do we think Ainsley has, hacked to pieces this time? Who could possibly be the person she stabbed?
Or bird.
Yeah. Or other. It's not Sunshine. R.I.P. Sunshine. And on that note, we will catch you guys later. Have a good break off, and we'll see you back here after 2:07.
Bye-bye.